Hey everybody, Jed Johnson here with Grip Sport International, and I've just gone through a few of the recent contests and done the analysis on who's qualified for Nationals 2026 based on the performances that have taken place. So if you're interested in information on what lifts will qualify you for Nationals and other ways that you can get qualified, in the Grip Sport International newsletter, there's a link to those qualifications near the bottom of the newsletter. So you can look at that link and you'll see exactly what you need to do. So one of the ways that you can qualify is by finishing essentially in the top 3 of a weight class. So I'm going to go over these. I've got 3 recent contests that have taken place. I'm going to go over them in just the order of the sheets as they sit in my hand. So first off, we got Greenville Grab. So the following people qualified based on placings: Matt McCall, Rob Harris, Sean Palmer. Those are all in the lightweight category of that contest. Jack Palmer from the 105 kilo is qualified for Nationals. And then Zach Stanowitz, Nate Powell, Chris Tracy, and Hunter Heath are all qualified for Nationals based on their placings. The other groups, for instance, the 72 kilo class and the 72 plus kilo class that took place at Greenville Grab, those women's classes didn't have enough people to qualify through that means. I also looked for qualifying lifts, and no one got fully qualified for Nationals based on their lifts, but we did have a handful of people whose their lifts were high enough to meet qualifications. So once you have 3 lifts that meet qualifications, then you're qualified. They don't have to take place in the same competition. So Markham Tuck lifted 190 on the 2x5 Saxon. That's a qualified lift. So if he can produce 2 other qualifying lifts, then he can qualify for Nationals in 2026. Jacob Furland did 140 on the gripper. That qualifies him. Donnie Vierstra did 160 on the gripper. So that's a qualified lift. Alex Pavlunenko did 225 on the 2x5 Saxon. That's a qualified lift. Jason Otto did 145 on the gripper. That's a qualified lift. And Laura Palmer did 65 on a gripper. So that's a qualified lift. So each of those persons has 1 qualified lift. So if they can manage 2 more qualified lifts during the season, they're qualified for Nationals. Let's go on to Stronghold 4. The people that qualified based on placings were Jalen Worley, who's actually already qualified, and Emmett Saman, who was essentially already qualified because he competed at North Americans. Jalen competed at North Americans and Nationals, so the placings kind of gets washed out by people who were already qualified. But if we look at the 3 lifts, the 3 qualifying lifts, we had Matt Beaton actually qualify for Nationals based on 3 lifts. He did 130 on the gripper, 175 on the 2-hand pinch, and 180 on the little bighorn. So he's now fully qualified for Nationals. And then we had a couple other people who performed lifts that were qualified lifts, and they'll have 1 out of the 3 qualified lifts. So Dave Bellinger lifted 178 on the Euro. That's a qualified lift. And then April Bellinger did 100 pounds on the Euro, and that's a qualified lift. Now, if we look at Dubs Grip Classic, the following people qualified based on their placing: Jamie Shama in the 100 kilogram weight class, Jesse Hagedorn in the 83 kilo weight class, Steve Millard in the 105 kilo weight class, and then Jalen Worley again, 120 plus. some of these people may have already been qualified based on competitions that they competed in previously, but those are good lifts for those are good finishes for another qualification for nationals. All right, so the 2 1/4 crusher and the 2-hand flask pinch are both qualifying lifts. So I went through to look at who produced high enough lifts to meet qualifications for those lifts. Kim Van Wagner, her lift on the 2 1/4 crusher and 2-hand flask are qualified lifts, so she just needs one more. Trina Ruland, her lifts were qualified lifts on the 2 1/4 crusher and 2-hand flask. And also Kelsey Sherman, her lifts on the 2 1/4 crusher and 2-hand flask were qualified lifts. So all three of those women only need one more lift in order to be fully qualified for Nationals 2026. If we drop down through the rankings of this contest, we need to go to the 105 kilo class, and we'll find some more people. Well, it looks like one person has a qualified lift, and that is Mark Brotherson. He did the 87.5 kilos on the 2-hand flask, and that is a qualified lift. So he just needs to produce 2 more qualified lifts, and he can be qualified for Nationals. If we go to the 120 plus kilo class, Akeem Jenkins produced a qualified lift on the 2 1/4 crusher and on the 2-hand flask. Matthew Baker produced a qualified lift on the 2-hand flask. Sire Brown produced a qualified lift on the 2 1/4 crusher. And Jeremy Everding produced a qualified lift on the 2 1/4 crusher and the 2-hand flask. There was one other contest that has taken place since Nationals. That was the home gym con, and I didn't realize it, but the sheet that I printed out only has placings on it, so I can only cover the placings from that contest to share who is qualified for Nationals. I don't have the lifts that they did, so I can't analyze whether they produce any qualified lifts. But in the women's 84 kilo class, Carolyn Winstell placed first out of third, so she is qualified for Nationals. In the men's masters, Nathan Ball was first out of 3 people, so he's qualified for Nationals. In the men's 105, there were double-digit competitors, so the top 3 qualify, and that includes Benjamin Eisenmenger, Jason Gonzalez, and Jared Martin. So those 3 people are qualified for Nationals in 2026. In the men's 120, the top 2 qualify for Nationals out of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's Chris Henn and William Whitman. And I'll have to check and see out of 6 if it's actually... No, it's the top 3rd. Yeah, so it's the top 2. I'm sorry. Sorry for that brain fart. So Chris Henn and William Whitman both qualified for Nationals 2026 based on their placing in this contest. And then Jason Cooper in the 120 plus class is qualified for Nationals. So congratulations to everyone who is fully qualified, and congratulations to everybody who's produced so far some qualified lifts in competition. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. I can give you more specifics. But again, the entire list of ways that you can qualify for Nationals is in the bottom of the newsletter. Everybody receiving this should be on the newsletter. If you're not, get a hold of me and I'll get you added. All you have to do is email me at jed.diesel@gmail.com, jed.diesel@gmail.com, and I'll get you added. And the process is real simple, and I'm happy to help you out towards getting fully qualified. Can't wait for the 2026 Nationals. We're well on our way. Already got a bunch of people on the list. So congratulations, everyone, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks a lot. Take care.